Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Brains for Days here on YouTube. My name is Corey for anyone who's new here. You might remember me from my last video in which I filmed a video on how I studied for the comp exam, or the CBSE or the NBME CBSE exam, or we just say comp. If you're new to my channel, I am currently a US IMG, or a Caribbean medical student, and I am just about to start my third year of clinical rotations, yay, because I just passed my Step 1 exam. And so I wanted to hop on here and film a video of how I studied for my Step 1 exam. I just wanted to take you guys through the elective course that I took, because it actually was longer than a normal dedicated period. I actually spent probably a total of 8 to 9 months studying for this exam. And so it was a little bit longer study period. And so I just want to take you through all the steps that I did to pass my Step 1 exam on the first time. And so I want to talk about the elective course that I did, the leave of absences I took from the island, or from the school in general, not from the island, but from the school, and my diagnostics, my scores, and resources, and how I felt after the exam, because we all know that 2 weeks after the exam can be really grueling and really brutal. I want to discuss, how I felt and how I felt days leading up. And then also I want to talk about just my emotions during the exam, and I want to talk about what I ate during my breaks and take you guys through that. So, excuse me, this is going to be probably a longer video, but I want to give you guys all the goods, of how to study for this Step 1 exam to pass it on the first time. And so let's just get into it without further ado. So again, for those of you who are new, my name is Corey, and I am currently a US IMG, International Medical Graduate. That's what IMG stands for. And I'm not going to say the Caribbean school I go to just for privacy purposes, but I completed 2 years on the island, and that 2 years was a little bit rocky. I had to retake a couple of modules, but all in all, I have made it to this point where I have passed my Step 1 exam. And so you check out my last video. I have that linked below on how I studied for the comp exam, which is the exam you have to take on the island in order to leave the island and study in your Step 1 dedicated period. So right when I passed comp, it was July the 30th. So July 30th, 2024, to be correct. And my school's passing score, just to recap, was a 62. And thanks be to God, I got a 63. It was just like so nerve-wracking. I was 1 point higher than the passing score, but I'm so glad I passed that exam. For more details on that exam, definitely check out my other video though on how I studied for the comp exam. So after you get the pass, you're immediately paired with sort of a fellow on the island to sort of guide you through the next steps on how to study for Step 1 and the resources you need for Step 1. So we were also given the option to take an elective course, which would have been another semester on the island, in order to help us with study strategies. And they gave us the Amboss Q Bank to use and things like that. And they also gave like a scholarship, some scholarship money, which was really beneficial and helpful. So I was kind of debating, should I just go home and study for Step, or should I take this course and then be on my leave of absence or dedicated period to study for Step? So I ended up choosing to take the capstone course. I ended up choosing to take the capstone course, and I felt like the course was really beneficial. Granted, I did not probably want to stay on the island an extra semester, but I was like, you know what, let's just buckle down. I'm going to get extra time, and this doesn't count towards my dedicated. This is considered a course, an elective course. And so I felt like the course was very beneficial. I basically finished almost all of the Amboss Q Bank because they gave us Amboss, the school did, and they also gave us at least 4 or 5 NBME diagnostics. These were like customized subject tests from the school, and it was really, really helpful and really, really beneficial, I felt, for all of us. In the program. And all of us in the program, I would say, was about 20 of us, maybe 22, give or take. And I just feel like it was really helpful. Now, a lot of my classmates in the elective course, they took Step right after they finished the elective course. But for me, I still was not scoring where I wanted to on my diagnostics in that elective course. And so I was like, you know what? I want to take a Step 1 LOA, or Step 1 leave of absence. And so starting January of 25 in the new year, I was back at home and I was going to take my Step 1 LOA. Okay, so now that we're in our step one LOA, let's get into the meat and potatoes of basically how I studied during the step one LOA. So for my school, the step one LOA is exactly 4 months long, and normally it's like January. For me, it was January through April, and at the beginning of May, you're supposed to like already have taken step and reported your step scores like by that time and whatnot. As we'll see following on, I had to take another LOA, but we'll get to that. Don't worry. Okay, so for this first step one LOA, my schedule, being that I was at home now and whatnot, was a little bit different than my schedule on the island, but similar in many ways. So let me just take you through sort of a day in the life of my step one LOA dedicated period. So normally, as you might hear in my last video, I like to wake up really early in the morning, and I feel like my brain is functioning at like high capacity in the morning. And so my like start time every day is like 4 or 4:30 a.m. in the morning. Normally 4:30 I would say is like the golden hour for me to wake up. And so typically every morning I'm waking up at 4:30 a.m. And the first component of my day, as I've said in my last video before, is prayer. I am a Christian woman, and I prioritize prayer in my life. I prioritize the presence of God and Jesus in my life, and I really care about those things. And I want that to be number one in my day. And so at 4:30 a.m., I'm already playing my worship music and just getting in the zone for prayer. And so first thing I do in the morning is, get up, glory be to God, thank the Lord for giving me another day, and I think that is an excellent way if you're a person of faith to start your day. Whatever faith you're in, I believe you should start your day with prayer. And so that's the first thing I do at 4:30 in the morning. The second thing that I do is normally a little bit of Bible study and a little bit of worship. And so just to take you through my routine, I love the Hallow app, and I talk about this in my last video as well. You might see some celebs from one of my favorite shows, The Chosen, talking about it. And so it's a really good app, and it has something for everyone on there. And I really loved the meditations, and I love the daily reflections, and I also love the daily readings. And I normally do that right after I do my prayers. And so I'm on the app doing that. And then also, I try to do a Bible study in the morning. Sometimes this didn't happen every morning, but most of the time I started a Bible in a year plan for the new year. And so I have really been dedicated to trying to finish the whole Bible this year. Right now, I kind of fell off track a little bit, but we're like on Leviticus. Anyway, I digress. This is part of my morning routine, and I felt like it was really beneficial to me to prioritize a Bible study in the morning. And for Bible study, I like using the Heart Dive podcast, or like Heart Dive Bible studies on YouTube. And this is with Kanoy Gibson and Holly Rigos. Really good Bible study. Actually saw another doctor on YouTube recommend it, and I was like, this is so cool and whatnot. So I decided to try, and I really like it. Anyway, I normally try to get that done in the morning. And then after that is when I do exercise. Now, exercising in the morning for me is typically, I'm not the person who drinks like pre-workout, protein shakes, and all that stuff. I typically just stick to water basically in the morning, or coffee. And normally I do my exercise before I have water or coffee. And so my exercise is very low impact in the morning. Sometimes it's lower body and upper body Pilates classes, and other times it's just like stretching, basic stretching, whether it's lower body or upper body. 10 to 15 minutes of stretching and Pilates is typical for my morning workout. And then typically I will go downstairs and make a cup of coffee, cafecito, shot of espresso, everything, and just have everything prepared so I can go on to the next part of my day, which is doing Anki cards. So by, I would say 5:30 a.m., latest 6 a.m., I want to be already back in my seat. This is my little desk, back in my seat doing Anki cards. And so every day throughout this whole step one LOA study period, I did about 200 to 300 Anki cards per day. I typically did not do more than that. I know I said in my last video I was trying to work my way towards like 1,000 cards a day. I think the most cards I did per day was like, or the most cards I did in one day, not per day. The most cards I did in one day was like 800 cards. But after that, I'm like, bruh. So I ended up doing like 200 to 300 cards a day, and I felt like that was really beneficial for me. And one of the things I kind of noticed further along in my studying that was beneficial to me was kind of chunking my Anki cards by subject. And so, for instance, if I have my little capstone deck like from the elective course and like combined with what I'm doing at home, it'll just say this one is GI. And every subheading under GI is like, this is GI liver, this is GI pancreas, this is GI, what else? Gallbladder, So everything has a little section. And so I know this is all my liver cards, this is all my gallbladder cards, so this is all my what else did I say? Spleen cards or pancreas cards. Yeah. So this is all my stuff. GI is also a problem area for me. But this is basically just all of my cards on specific organs under this realm of GI. So it's just not all combined in one big deck. Because I had it combined in one big deck before. That was really stressful on me. So I decided to break it down by subject. For instance, another subject might be biostats. So for biostats, each subdeck I have what sensitivity and specificity. I have case study design, so case control, case theories, things like that, et cetera. And it sort of goes down the line. And I felt like that was very beneficial to like group my Anki cards in these categories because it just saved me a lot of time, allowed me to go through more cards, allowed me to go through subject specific cards when I had problems in UWorld or Amboss and I kept getting questions wrong. And so I felt that was very beneficial. So again, 200 to 300 Anki cards per day. You'll notice throughout this video that my schedule didn't really change from comp to step 1, but it did get elevated just a little bit. And so after I do my Anki cards, I typically will eat breakfast, get dressed, do all the things, and then I will sit down about like 10 a.m. I would say. Sometimes I take a little nap because I wake up so early, I get tired later. So sometimes I would take a little nap before I got dressed and like ate breakfast and whatnot. But most of the time at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m., that's when I start my questions for the day. I know that's not starting questions early morning like some people recommend, but I thought that starting questions at like 10 a.m., I'm already like primed, my brain is primed with Anki. I'm already sort of into it, and so I felt like 10 a.m. was a good start time for questions. So throughout my entire period of doing UWorld, now the QBank, that brings me to my next point. The QBank I was using during the Step 1 LOA dedicated period was UWorld. I had already finished a majority of Amboss in the capstone elective course, and so I really was prioritizing doing UWorld during my Step 1 LOA. So I would kind of finish 2 QBanks. I didn't finish all of Amboss, but I finished most of it, so I just kind of switched on to UWorld. And to be honest, I liked UWorld better. That's just the one I preferred better. I admire both of them. I think they're both gives you a comprehensive content review for everything you need to know. But for me personally, I would say UWorld. I recommend UWorld more. That's just my personal opinion. Again, none of this is sponsored. I'm just telling you what I use. So UWorld is what I used during my Step 1 dedicated LOA period. And so I would do about 80 questions per day. And I pretty much stuck to that. Sometimes I would do more questions on the weekends with my friends or like little study group friends and whatnot. I would do like 10 to 20 questions with them and go over it like step by step. We'd spend probably like 1 to 2 hours just on 10 or 20 questions just to really hone in on certain concepts. But for me personally, throughout the week, I would do 80 questions per day. And that was like the max questions for me. I would spend about 2 hours doing the 80 questions, and then I would spend about 2 to 4 hours reviewing the questions in the afternoon after I ate lunch. And so that was my typical schedule, honestly, throughout the entire period. And I'll get into when I did my diagnostics in just a second. And so by the end of the day, I have little prayers again scheduled throughout the day. If you've seen my other videos or YouTube shorts, you might know that I love to pray. And I do love praying all day long. I believe in the verse, it says pray without ceasing. And for step 1, as a person of faith, I would say you should really pray without ceasing, because this exam is like a booger bear. It's super scary, but it doesn't have to be. If you can just get in the right mindset, in the right zone, you got this, sis, bro, you got this. I tell that to anyone, you got this. And so I normally schedule prayer at noon, and that's normally after I'm done with the 80 questions. And then normally I schedule another prayer around 3 o'clock, sometimes 5 o'clock, during my review time, just to give me that extra dose of wisdom, extra dose of the Lord. The Lord, I need the Lord all day long. Basically, as I've previously said in my other videos, prayer is really important to me. And so after I do my sort of afternoon, evening prayers, I then go on to eating dinner. So I eat my dinner. And then after that, I typically, honestly, did not do any more studying after 6 p.m., I would say. Sometimes I would watch some more videos, do some more Anki cards and whatnot, kind of maybe listen to a divine intervention video. He's another good podcast on the Apple Podcast that is really good. But ultimately, a lot of the time when I was done for the day, I was done for the day. The only thing I would do to wind down was drink my little jasmine tea. I love my tea. And then I would do my comprehensive sort of Bible study at night. And I felt like Bible study was like the comprehensive Bible study where I look at commentaries and do all that cool stuff. I typically do that at nighttime. And so yeah, that would be my sort of night routine, doing Bible study and then going to sleep, I would say around 9 p.m. I would say 9 or 9:30 p.m. And so that is a day in the life of essentially every single day during dedicated. Like every single day during step one dedicated, it's just like praying and working, praying and working, praying and working, right? And so, by the time I got to like the end of April, I would say that my diagnostic scores were in the range of like, let me see, 58 to 62. So even though my comp score, like before I told you, was 63, I still was struggling with the NBME diagnostics. And so this leads me into taking another step one LOA, or as my school would call it, a step one LOA extension. And so don't worry, this extension didn't last forever. I just needed a little bit more time to get that extra push, so I can actually qualify to get my step one permit and take the exam. And so we'll get into that next.